Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's where you're going that counts. You got to believe in yourself. You do that through goals, through short-term goals. And if you don't know what you're doing, ask somebody. Pick your teacher's brains. Pick this guy's brains till he's got no hair left. Whoops. You've been picking your brains pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't be scared to ask somebody. Because it's your future. It's yours. But one day you're going to go out in the corporate world. And if you don't have the weapons, they're going to use you, exploit you. You're going to do the Joe jobs. You don't want that. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You got to have a strong desire. I'm not finished yet. I'm on my second book. It's almost done. And then I'm going to do another one. So here's a guy who's a bad wetter, slow learner, ex-con. Now I'm living my life. I work for RB. I work for Sun TV. I got another book coming up. This one is going to be a movie. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm not the smartest guy out there. But I know if you go after something with tenacity, and you have dreams have to be realistic. If you're not good in math, you're never going to be a rocket scientist. I'm not saying anybody's dumb, but you know what? You got to be realistic. A sparrow may desire all its life, but the sparrow will never be the eagle. But a butterfly, I mean, look at a caterpillar becomes a beautiful monarch butterfly. It evolves. It's all up to you. Thank you for your time. Anybody got a question? Anybody got a... Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Did you ever see somebody down there in front of your eyes, though? Like when you lived in Detroit, like, there's a lot of shootings and stuff?
All the time, yeah.
You see enough people die in front of you?
Yes, I have. I've seen people. I identified my first body at 15.
I don't know.
He was a good friend of mine. But yeah, I've seen somebody get shot. And matter of fact, the last time I was in Detroit, I saw a woman pull a gun on her boyfriend. They were fighting in the middle of the street, up near 7 Mile and Gratiot, fighting. And she pulled a gun on him. I thought she was going to shoot him, and my wife got ready to intervene. I grabbed her. I said, you know one thing? I can't step in the middle of that. I mean, you can only do so much. Anybody else got a question? Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering, like you said, that you have children. What was the main thing that you wanted to impart onto your children? What are your lessons?
Well, we always thought positive with our children in the house all the time. You know what? My wife is a great lady. She never complains anyhow. But I wanted to instill in them the importance of education, how it empowers you. We had a pretty good life. Like, it wasn't like my life. My kids all had their own bedrooms. They're a bit pampered, but we instilled on them values and discipline. Like, you know, if you're going to start something, you're not going to finish it. My son started a paper out, and then he decided after about 3 or 4 months it got cold one day, he didn't want to go. We caught him dumping his papers. I made him go out and followed him, made him do every one of them. I said, you're not going to quit this until your time is up. And he had to stay where he liked it. No, not. I said, when you start a project, you finish it, or don't come to me and ask me to help you. So we instilled them kind of things in them. Another thing, I was very particular who they hung with. I want to know. Many parents are naive. They don't know what their kids are doing. And so they, oh my God, he's in a gang. My mother and father didn't know that I was part of a gang. Until I got sent to juvie hall. They didn't know. They're so busy chasing a dream, they didn't see the nightmare closing in around them. But you instill in your children confidence through goals. We always set little goals and then praised them when they had them. And they celebrated with us. And always, it doesn't matter where you come from, it's where you're going. My kids had it tough sometimes. They were biracial. They get it from the blacks and the whites. You know what? But they're strong. They didn't care. Because I taught them, your mother's a wonderful woman. You know what I mean? You should be proud of your culture. So these kids are both cultures. But I mean, they're pretty well, you know, they know the situation. If you want something bad enough, you got to go get it. I have a daughter now who owns a successful picture framing business, and she sells black art all over America out of Jacksonville, Florida. Has a huge clientele in Atlanta, Georgia, and Macon, right down through Florida into South Florida. She's doing very well. My other daughter's in administration. She's doing well. One of my sons is a small engines mechanic. He makes more than lawyers. He makes $1,100 a week. There are tremendous opportunities in the skilled trades. Tremendous opportunities, and the government's not doing enough. to let you know them. I mean, a bricklayer makes 26 bucks an hour. I have a nephew who is a cabinet maker, 27 bucks an hour. He's 25 years old. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, what would you recommend for the youth in order to stay motivated? Like, what are some other things that...
Well, you know, motivation is something that comes from mentors, but also comes from within yourself. Goals motivate me. If I don't set a goal, if you don't have goals, you don't have a direction. If you don't have goals, you have nothing to be motivated for. I'm motivated right now to get this next book finished, and then I'm doing a project when I finish that on cover version music and how it ripped off a lot of the great entertainers of the '60s, guys like Little Richard, who lost millions. And why Elvis Presley's probably sold more records than Little Richard's, because Elvis was in mainstream. There are a lot of great singers like Jackie Wilson and those guys who never got into mainstream because it wouldn't allow them. So I'm doing that. But I have these different projects, and they keep me motivated. But when I talk to young people, you know, first of all, I tell them, first of all, examine yourself, find what you can do, and then motivate you. You're motivated. I know because I talk to them. Yes, sir.
I got two questions. Actually, one was when you were talking about in reference to the gangs and the whole idea of being able to kill without remorse. And what would you say to individuals?
Ask yourself what you're doing before you do this, really. But you know one thing? A lot of gang members that kill they're part of a clique. And these people are praised by one another. A murderer comes to jail, they're cool. I went to jail once for assaulting a police officer and taking his gun. I was the hero in that place. When I went into Millbrook, the word got around there before I was there. When I come in, I was treated like a champ. And that was cool to me because I lived in that ignorance. That's a nice sound. So if they're gang members, not all gang members are cold and vicious. Many of them are in part of something because it becomes a family to them. My guys were my guys. I loved them. They loved me. And you know what? I didn't care about the rest of the world because I felt excluded. I can tell you, a lot of young people in this area feel excluded. They don't believe they'll make it in the corporate world. I was up to for a celebration with Alvin Curling yesterday up at Queen's Park, and I heard Mr. McGinty get up there, and he got in there. And he's like. Talking about the hope and that Alvin Curling is proof. Alvin Curling is a numbers game. I like the man. I've known him for years. But I thought, this is so much crap. A lot of people aren't going to listen to this. In my business, there is still so much discrimination. It's an old boys network here. I'm the only black man in a major radio station in this country. And this is 2006. There's very few women in radio. And when they do, they flaunt them. We got a long way to go. So a lot of young people feel excluded, and they figure, you know what? I can make it hustling drugs. I can make $500 a day, or I can make it being a gangster. I can see something there. I understand this, whereas I can't see me out there. Where we get them out of that is by good, strong mentors who show them ways out. Would you rather risk your life going to jail? Because jail ain't cool, man. Anybody tells you jail is cool needs to see a psychiatrist. In jail, they put you to bed every night. They wake you up every morning. They tell you what to eat, what to wear, what to drink, what to watch.
No freedom.
No freedom. They check your mail out. And I can tell you something. I tell young people, you know what the jail's like? Go home tonight. Go in the washroom at 9:30. Have your mother or father lock you in. Turn off the lights and lay in the bathtub. The bathtub is just a little smaller than a jail cot. Now, you're not allowed to bring anything in there. You lay in the dark from 9:30 to 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. No radio, no TV, nothing to watch, nothing to eat, nothing to read. You're in the dark. Try it and see if you like it, because that's what jail is like. And those guys, I hear them in jail talking about how smart they are, and I say, you know what? You're so smart. Why is your ass in here? Why is your ass in here? You guys are always smart. You always got a plan. And you know what? Most gangsters, by the time they're 30, they're dead. Or they're still in jail. And the guys I grew up with in Detroit are still in the projects. They got nothing and jealous of me. Don't let them play on you, because they will. Oh, you ain't keeping it real. Man, you ain't got my back. I said, hell on your back. I got a wife and 4 kids I got to watch. You got yourself in this sling, get yourself out. The way you do it is get an education. Stay in school. You don't have to be academic. Man, we need skilled tradespeople out there. There's big money. There's big money, man. And there's 104 different skilled trades out there. And I have a son and a nephew both making more than lawyers. And they do what they love what they're doing. But if you find out what you're good at, turn it into. If it's rapping, that's cool. Hey, the great poets of our time, one of the great ones, but deep solid. One of the great ones, Tupac Shakur. I mean, you talk about these. 50 Cent in this guy's league. Tupac was deep, man. Trouble is, he hung around with badassers, and he's dead. He's a young man. Watch who you hang with, because a lot of people I know get killed just by being associated. That's what happened to one of my cousins and dear friends. And by the way, Sonny, my guy that I loved. Remember I told you about my cousin Sonny? He was murdered at 21 years old. They never found out who did it. My cousin Bum was murdered at 20. They never found out who did it. My brother still has a bullet in his back. I brought him into the gang. I recruited him and another kid that was killed in a holdup. So let me tell you something. There's nothing honorable about being in gangs.
My second question was, what would you say to people in regards to the whole idea of when these shootings occur in clubs or when the shootings happen, everybody's looking at the floor, everybody's in the washroom at the time of the shooting, and nobody comes forward on those issues.
Well, there's two things there, and this has always happened. This happened growing up. Now, one thing, if you're seen talking to the cops, you become immediate. Your life becomes in danger, so does your family. And another thing, too, today's kids are all part of that hip-hop culture. And I don't want to come down on it. I'm just saying it's cool not to give up a name. Hey, man, he's got street cred. He ain't giving up a name. Everybody wants the street cred. The street cred. That means you're cool. But I don't know. You know what? That's a huge. That's a profound question. How can you just turn your head the other way? Why one human takes another person's life, and you want this guy walking the street? We have so many murderers walking the streets. They have killed our young black people, walking the streets, and they don't feel any remorse. I've talked to gang leaders and told them, do you know what you did? I had a conference in Detroit where they had ex-gang leaders who talked their stories and talked about it, and it really fills your heart listening to these guys talk about this, and they do feel remorse. All gang members aren't bad, but you're in that game. If you're in that game, then you got to play the game, or the game plays you. So, but in saying they don't give up names, kids, a lot of it's fear. I mean, I know guys that play in the NFL and the NBA that are affiliated with gangs, and their family still lives back in Oakland, or back in Detroit, or back in Atlanta. And you know what? Their family is in that area that the gang rules. So I don't care if they're a star, they got to keep cool. If they don't, their family is not protected. And I know where I grew up, you were protected. And there's a lot of areas in Toronto like that too, where they have that. This stuff's been going on for years. It's getting worse in some areas, because wherever there's a demand, there's going to be supply. There's a huge demand for drugs, and that means drug areas. First things gangs kill over, first of all, territory, but then there's also the manhood thing. You look at a man's woman the wrong way, or you bump into him the wrong way, you are now questioning his manhood. We've got to change the way we settle our differences. Do you agree with that?
I agree. It's just my whole is kind of like you realize that there is always going to be a gang culture, no matter by whatever name. There's always going to be criminals. Period. The thing is that when the innocent start being affected by it, in a way, sometimes it's kind of callous in a way. It's kind of like, well, if you get shot and you're a gang member, well, that's your gang retirement package. That's what it's about. That's part of the history, and that's what you came into it, and that's your expectation is you're either going to get rich or you're going to die. That's the
get rich or die trying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the whole thing is that when you see the innocent being affected by it, then you say to yourself, well, you've got to step up. You've got to.
We need to step up. We need more members of the black community to step up. Yeah. I was on the other day talking about I had members of the black community jumping all over me. Jumping all over me. They're blaming everybody else. Well, so we got to take responsibility. Exactly. It's our community, and we don't even have a black radio station. We got Flow, but they don't talk radio. Where young people can talk in and share their differences and things like that. But the fact is you know what? As long as violence is glorified in the way it is in the media, we make heroes of these people. As long as women are denigrated as they are in the media. And as long as all this goes on, it's going to happen. We've got so many young men out here with no father figures, so their figures become these glorified media people. I mean, these glorified actors and athletes. These people no different than me and you. When they go to Washington, they drop their drawers the same way. It's that simple, but violence is glorified. And as long as it's glorified, innocent people are going to die. Hell, man, you look at Iraq. I mean, you know, the Americans talk about shock and awe and all that stuff, but tell me how many innocent Iraqi children have died in violence. That's violence. That's the biggest gang there is. The United States military, the biggest gang there is. And they should be home taking care of their gang violence at home, but they're over there bombing the hell out of Iraq. You know what I'm saying? All you can do is what you're doing. We can only do what we can do. I don't lose sleep anymore. I just do what I can. Violence is wrong. That starts in the home. But unfortunately, these kids, the minute they get home, they got on BET or they got on Much Music, they got on some, and they got all these heroes. I mean, they're all violent. What do they settle? Even James Bond, everybody settles. From the time I was a kid, Shaft settles everything with a gun. We live in a country next to the greatest nation on earth that just loves guns. They have this infatuation with guns. And now young people today, gun is part of your... So what about the young guys that just want to be left alone? I mean, sometimes you just got to watch the people you hang around with.
And that's the other thing. Like, we've got, in terms of, as Canadians, we've got to identify ourselves as Canadians and separate from the culture from the Americans, but
we're not going to happen. They own us.
Yeah.
Here you go, my man. They own us. Hey, man, I'm telling you straight up, they own us. Everything about, hey, Toronto wasn't cool until we got an NBA team, until we could go buy liquor 24/7. You know what I mean? We want to be like Americans. Well, you know what? The crime. And there are many people in this city that have no other opportunity. They come here, they live in poverty, and they're going to make it the best way they can. And they don't value lives. A life is not as valuable. I know guys that get more time robbing a bank than murdering somebody. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir.
Coming from a person that's actually been in the neighborhoods of the troubles or whatever people consider bad, how do you feel about like living in Canada today, that it's hard for a youth? It's easy for them to go on the streets and sell drugs, and it's easier for them to go and get a job. How do you feel about that?
Well, it depends on the job. I don't think it's that easy to get a good job. You have to have education to get a good job. If you just get a Joe job, you're never going to be happy. Just to get a job, I mean, I hear people say that all the time, but it takes more. You have to have something that sparks your interest. You know what I mean? Something you feel good doing. And if you don't do that, these Mickey Mouse jobs, that's what I call them, with people that have no education. You don't feel good. If you haven't got self-gratification, your life's lousy. So you see these guys being able to hustle, and once they start making that $400 or $500 a day, hustling, whatever it is, they don't want to go back to some Joe job where they're making $90, where they're being exploited. I mean, there's so much hypocrisy out there in the corporate world. They really don't know what it's like. They really don't know. But you know what? These people doing the right thing here. You have to have some kind of a skill or education. Then you can go into the world, you know what I mean? Be your own person. Whether it is a rapper, where it is, I've got guys who want to be basketball players, and they want to be, every kid I know wants to be an NBA player, but you know what? The numbers are against it. But you can become an NBA coach, or you can become a coach. You can get involved in it. Obviously, they love basketball. You got to get above the glamour and the glitz and the bling bling. You got to get them, because these people live that glamorous life that we see. And you see they got them nice homes, they're rich and famous, nice home on in the Los Angeles, you know, or in Phoenix, or in beautiful places. And young kids see all that and they think it's easy. It's not. Everybody doesn't get that.
Well, and the other thing is that in the meantime, you have to do other things to get there. Like, otherwise, you're starving. Like, if you want to be a good basketball player or good actor or something, sometimes you have to do those menial things to get to where. But
well, that's okay. But you've got to go. But you've got to go.
The dream. Sometimes your dreams aren't exactly coming together as quickly as you want. But you know, they take time. As long as you just lay down the platform.
I like where you're coming from. But you see, you're motivated. You got some goals. These kids have to have goals first. Yes, ma'am.
I was just thinking that we didn't really talk about how the media sort of plays into this, because I remember I used to listen to CFRB and many radio stations, and what I found was that sometimes, I'm asking, my question is, when sometimes I've heard radio announcers, when they're talking to the radio announcers, saying things that I felt were sort of derogatory, let's say in particular towards the black community. And I'm just wondering, if you're the only, I guess, black person within CFRB, when you, let's say, possibly hear an opinion that you don't necessarily agree with, maybe possibly with regards to this issue, how do you deal with it? If one of your colleagues possibly says something that you don't agree with.
Right, get right on them. I don't play around. I don't play around on there because I'll tell you why. Because most of these guys that are in radio are right-wing guys that everything they've learned is out of a university book. They've never lived. They've never lived through poverty, lived through racism, lived through exclusion. They've never had to struggle in the same sense. So you know what? I get on them and I usually shut up because they're a little nervous. Because you know what? I'm a very emotional person. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be excluded. They don't understand these things. I hear that the Bill Carrolls of the world, they don't know nothing. Please, I got on them so bad. But you know, these people are. I mean, he's a favorite at the station with the brass there, because they're right wing. But they leave me alone, as I said, but you have to speak out. And sometimes it makes you unpopular, even in your own home. Instead of being this child's friend, you should be this child's mentor and this child's parent. And in the neighborhoods, you can be. I've been threatened by gang members, been confronted by them here and in Detroit and in St. Louis. I've been confronted by gang members. Hey, you know what? I'm 57. You're going to smoke me? Go ahead. I don't give out. I've lived a good life. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to do. But I still got a message to get out. Jesus died at 32 because he got his message out. A lot of people don't like the truth. They don't like the truth. But we got the truth here. There's a whole lot of the media that are glorifying this violence, exploiting it. You know what? Even a lot of young brothers have taken these guys now, brought this whole suffering and exploited it. And the money's not going back in the way it should be, into social programs for these young people. Social programs. There are so many kids that need mentors and need people to help them with their homework and you know, places to go at night where the kids can hang around positive role models and things. Yes, sir.
Do you honestly believe, well, I don't know if I lived in Canada all my life, so practically, but I've been a few places, like in the States and Jamaica and all those other places. But do you feel that in this time and day that's going on right now, of 2005 from 6 now that we're in right now and going on to 7, that the politicians, the police officers, the mayor, or anybody is making a change or stop towards gun violence or crime at all?
You know what it's like. They're doing their best, but they don't really have a sense of how to do it. Because I've been down there many times. I say, hey man, on one hand you're telling us that guns kill, yeah, so do knives. They're talking about now getting the guns off the street. Well, in Detroit back in the 60s, 67, out of the 708 murders, I think 300 of them were knife stabbing murders. You got to get it out of here. It's a gang culture, it's a violent culture, and people settle things violently. You know what the mayor is? The mayor, I call him, we don't get along that well, because I call the mayor he is an ambulance chaser. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When there's a shooting or a knifing or a violent act, he shows up and pontificates and shoots out his mouth for 5 minutes, then he's gone. Same as the police, the chief. As a matter of fact, the police chief of police in this city is not Blair, it's Miller. And that's why Miller's there, that's why Blair's there, because Miller can manipulate him any way he wants him. They write a lot, but yeah, you know what? Shootings almost every day, some kind of shooting or something.
I just think they don't. It's a guarantee to me where I say they don't care about the subsidized housing projects. They don't care about the deprived neighborhoods of the area because, look, 56 murders in 1 year. You're talking about a homicide where a guy writes you an email saying that his son's dead. That same man, my bro died on his funeral for that same guy, Jason Huxtable. Gunned down on the bridge.
Did you know Jason?
I seen him around my sisters.
I know his father talks to me a lot, and his father is just in so much pain because he's never really got any kind of any kind of closure from the police.
There's no closure. It's the fact that you're black, you don't make it. They don't care.
You see, the thing is, one of the problems of this was, on Boxing Day, I wrote the Jane Creever story. I do a Boxing Day special every year on CFRB. I was downtown at the time of the shooting, 2 blocks away. When I got in the studio, somebody called me. There's a shooting that we dug into and found out that It was a 15-year-old girl, and I was 2 days later. I was on the Ann Romer show on City TV, and one of the things I brought up, and you know what, I don't mean this in a derogatory fashion or anything, but this was a white 15-year-old girl, so suddenly everybody cared, and the police force. But all these black kids dying, nobody said
Black
anything
mother
about
died in the club.
Yeah,
She didn't have nothing to do with anything.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
The
Man,
university
listen.
students, 2 children, and they didn't give 2 craps.
Now, this kind of stuff makes young blacks and young people of color angry. It makes them frustrated. It makes them feel excluded. I'm trying to put that together down at City Hall and of course, Queens Park. But you know what? It's very difficult to get these people to listen because they're looking for the vote. They're looking for the vote, but they don't give a damn about the people. They pretend they do.
They get more money. They get more money from violence than they do doing anything
Well,
else.
crime's a big business.
If you don't have crime, you don't have money.
I went to a crime. I went to when it was a big fundraiser, and it's a true story, out of the Liberty Bell down at the exhibition, and in the parking lot. I do this all the time. These cars were all expensive luxury cars. The lawyers, the crown attorneys, the judges, the Supreme Courts, the senators, and all these people down there. And I mean, I just said that. You know what? Crime does pay. Look what you guys are driving. Look at these cars, you guys. You go into the courts and see all these young people. They got them herded up like cattle. They keep them in for 2 minutes, take them back, I'll come back next week, and every time it does, the lawyer's billing somebody. The Crown's billing the system. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah, but
Without crime, they wouldn't get paid their money. Right?
the other thing is, though, is the community itself. The community's got to start addressing within and start looking within and saying to themselves, you know what, we've got to help the kids, help those in need. You've got to stop the violence. And you know what? The police can't do it all for you.
Police don't care.
Some do. There are some.
You know what? I'll debate some of them do. I know a lot of them that do care, but a lot of them don't care anymore because you know what? The killers come in the front door, the offenders come to the front door, right out the back door. We got 40% of the murders this year have been committed by guys that have been out on bail after committing a violent act already. That's got to stop.
And so,
if they're going to kill you, shoot you, they shouldn't be out there.
60% of the rapes are by repeat offenders.
But that's not due to the black community.
No, I'm
just saying, because you're talking
that's what frustrates some police officers.
Go ahead, man.
No, you mentioned something earlier which I think is very relevant and very important, that it has to come from here, and it has to come from the person in terms of believing in themselves and thinking that they make a difference, they can make a difference. That gentleman over there said they don't care, whether it's the police or whatever, and I think that may be valid to a degree, but I think in order maybe sometimes for them to care, you have to care. You have to care about yourself, what you're going to do, what you want to do, and a lot of that has to come from each and every person individually. I mean, you have to get it from here to there, and if they see eventually that you care and you're doing things to show that you care and help and whatever, then you know what, those people out there hopefully eventually will start caring too. But you can't just sort of abdicate the responsibility for yourself and say it's because of this, it's because of that. And you were saying that earlier, and I firmly believe in that. Like, it has to start here in your own psyche, in your own belief in yourself. And once we can all do that as a culture, as a society, then maybe Joe, Harry, Susan, whatever, will start caring too. So I'm sorry, I just had to say that. Because
Well, it's like the difference between a rock and a precious stone. What's a rock? It's just a rock. What makes it a precious stone? Well, you can make it the precious stone. You can make yourself and your community a precious stone by believing that you're important, that your beliefs and everything about you is the richness of this precious stone. Therefore, you're no longer a rock, and that's what makes you rise above.
Words are beautiful. Words are beautiful. And everybody, I go to meetings all the time where people talk words, but it starts in the home. There are many parents today that aren't teaching their kids self-respect. And when a kid comes up and has no respect in the home, respect for his parents, respect for himself, then it has no respect for society. And those kind of kids, man, if you can't reach them, I tell you what, I believe in, I don't want to be killing my kids. I want you in jail. And in jail, though, they have to be rehabilitation. They don't do that in jail. I was never rehabilitated in jail. I come out of jail angry and mad and with less than $4 in my kick.
Probably even more beef, depending on where you go.
Yes, sir.
I would say that there's a little bit of a circle in that as well, because when you finally get out of jail, the very first thing you got to do is, if you actually want to make it, you got to try and find a job. Then you look on an application, even on a McDonald's application, the very first thing they ask you is, do you have a criminal record? So how do you get around things? How do you prevent the cycle?
You know what, I'll just say very quickly, I lost it. The first job I ever got when I got out of jail in the early 60s, I got a job selling TVs, and it asked me if I had a criminal record. I put down no, and meanwhile I had a rap sheet longer than Shaq O'Neal's shoes. But you know what happened? A month later, because they didn't have high tech, a month later, after they checked the references, they called me to the office, and I was the #1 salesman. In a month, I was selling TV stereo sets, and they fired me. You know what I mean? So it's a vicious circle. And I had some violent crimes against me. But yeah, young people, if they do go to jail today, especially for long periods of time, we should find ways, and I have addressed that many times. The skilled trades, there are so many opportunities. Teach them something in jail. Instead of sitting there, these kids teach each other all kinds of bad things about what to do. The older guys get into jail, and they get in the heads of these young kids, and man, it's like a toxic. And because that happened to me, and it still happens. So you're right there. But I've been telling them that. They just don't seem to be listening. Put some money together and get you. If a kid's got a good skill, he'll generally come out of jail, take a job as a carpenter, take a job as a. I had a friend that did 15 years in KP, but you know what he learned in there? He learned how to become a plumber. And he's been out of jail for 20 years, and he's never been in trouble. He's a plumber. He doesn't even think of violent crimes anymore. Go through the territory and you're selling drugs, or you're in that underworld of gang life. Violence is part of the picture, and you accept it, even if you're not a kid that wants to kill. It's kill or be killed. It's like living in the jungle. The law of the jungle. Only the strong survive. Yes, ma'am.
I was just thinking that that adage that it takes a village, and I think that it takes a village to raise a child, and I think that we still have this mentality that, okay, well, it's just affecting those people over there, so I don't necessarily have to get involved, without having this sort of community-minded mentality. And I think the second thing with some communities also, we've allowed other people to define who we are as opposed to defining ourselves. And I think that you have to spend some time trying to figure out how do you do that, because you're almost re-socializing people in the sense that teaching them how to think differently, because if you constantly hearing negative messages and what have you, then you're going to believe that.
I've had young people say to me, I said, where do you live? Jane-Finch. And they wait for me to come back with that kind of, I said, I'd love you to Detroit, the heck I care. I don't feel intimidated coming down here, but I hear it a lot on the radio. Paul Mott will never come down here from CFRB. Neither will Bill Carroll. Neither will Craig Brummel of 640 unless he's got 5 or 6 cops with him. You know what? But these kids now, they got Wallace. Come on, these guys don't know. But the fact is this: there's so many wonderful people in this area. There's so many people that have addressed these issues, that are working with young people. But you know what? Melbourne's got that reputation now. I'm there all the time, and you know what? These kids need to feel that they're just as important. Damn it, we got to find a way to put it in them. It's not where you come from; it's where you're going that counts. But we got to get it in their head. Man, it's called esteem. Lift their esteem. I go to churches all the time. I don't preach to kids. I just talk about esteem. Man, because I was as low as it got at one time. I think I do anything now. I feel good, man. You know what? Lennox will walk in this room. I'll whip his ass. You know what I mean? Man, I tell you, I make LeBron James look stupid on a basketball court. Look at LeBron. No, you know what I'm saying? But I feel good about myself. I don't listen to other people saying, I get crap. You know what I do? The other day I got an article. I get more front page coverage than anybody in Toronto. I've been on the cover of the Toronto Sun, the Toronto Globe, the National Post, the Globe and Mail. And when I get them, I go into CFRB where they read all the stuff, and I put it on the board and those guys be looking. I know they get peeved off because they're working every day. I'm there twice a week and getting more props than all of them put together because you know what? I'm staying real, sincere. We really got to work for these kids, and it's more than just going out and emceeing some kind of event. It's about working with these kids. I get 50 emails a day from kids. I had a kid that emailed me. He was a member of the Crips since he was 11 years old. He was in Jamestown. And he got out at 15, and we got him at a safe housing, got him out of there. We got him back in school. We went to a basketball game the other night. We took 15 kids. I take kids to basketball games and kids from different areas, and they learn how to respect one another. This is what you do. You instill pride in them. And it starts here. I see parents here. They're here for a reason. Hey, you know what? You know what the problem is? I'll tell you very quickly. I do a lot of events with parents, and you know what bothers me? And I'll say this straight up. Most time, black parents don't even show up. And I said that in the Toronto Sun. I said, you want our kids to have an equal chance. Where in the hell are you tonight? Well, you got a chance to focus in and tell people how you feel. How you feel. Yes, sir.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Working.
No, we're talking in the evening.
Yeah.
You got to be there. If you want to be part of your neighborhood, a lot of white folks work too, but they showed up after I met them. We're talking lower middle class neighborhoods. You want to say something, get there and get involved. See, that's an excuse. Don't leave that. They got to get there. We hold them at night. And I went on with this when I was the skilled trades ambassador. I did this for 2 years. And the least people to show up were black brothers and sisters. And I got on in the Toronto Sun. I got a call the next day when I was on the air. Some of them agreed with me, but about 30% of them were all over me. Called me Uncle Tom. I said, man, what you talking about? You don't know about me. I've helped more young brothers get going. But some people are going to come down on you because you're trying to keep it real. You keep it real for a reason. But the truth always insults some people. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. That's what got Tupac killed. I hope I don't get killed, but at least I lived to be 57. He was young. You know? So we got to get involved in our community. Young kids learn respect. It starts in the home. I meet young kids of all colors that come to school they're in grade 1. They can't even spell their name. Something's wrong. You can't spell your name means mom and dad ain't listening to you. If you can't afford to have kids or you can't afford to give kids time, then just don't bring them into this world because you're putting them in harm's way. Harm's way. I talk to young women all the time and tell them, you know what? Just because some guy gives you the sweet talk doesn't mean he's going to be a good daddy. So you give him your goodies, and what happens? You end up with a child. Now you and the child, you're not making a lot of money. So you got to take this child where you can afford to live. And when you're living in that area, this child first of all becomes the prey of that vicious circle. Then he becomes the predator. So it evolves into the predator. This kid has and I find so many of these kids now in jails. I'm in jails a lot. These kids are 15, 16, 17 years old. Single parent families. They have no daddy role model. These guys love 50 Cent. That's their man. You know what I mean? That's their man. The kids have been brought up to be idol worshipers, like all of our society has today. Idol worshipers. The commercial world has turned us into idol worshipers. We put guys up on a pedestal and we want to be like them. Maybe that's not our dream. Maybe that's not what we're meant to be. But we want to be a hockey player, an NBA player. We want to be a rapper. We want to be a sportscaster. Hey, a lot of people want to be what I was, a sportscaster, because they think it's glory. You get to meet all these athletes. But you know what? I did 6 years of it and walked away from it. And I had the all-night show. I could have been there for years. I walked away because I saw the phony side of it.
You know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just noticed on a whole, in terms of politics and everything, that the government it focuses a lot more on punishment rather than prevention.
Yeah.
So, like, in terms of, like, the building of the $81 million super jail that they're going to build in Brampton, it's another reason why a lot of youth in this area are not motivated to make a lot of the right decisions. Because they see a lot of the government's money being put into building these places that are going to house them, whereas they've been asking for programs and social programs for years now. And then we have, a year or so ago, there was a a gang member. He was one of the big gang members. He was one of the Crips or Bloods. He was from L.A. and he was in jail. He wrote books to Tookie Williams, and they gave him the death penalty.
Yeah.
So like those are the things that, although he was one of the biggest gang members, how is that motivating? He did a lot of positive stuff for you.
I talked about that on my show, and I thought that, you know what? The guy spent 26 years in jail. Why take his life now?
Exactly.
That was not a positive thing, because what he did, he had repented. This guy had become a solid role model in jail, and why not to be there? And I thought, you know, Arnold, that was purely political crap. And until we put the black people come together as a whole, not just the black people, everybody, and say, we need more programs for these kids. And you know what? As I said, this country now has an alarming shortage of skilled trade workers. Skilled trade workers. You're a skilled trade worker, you can live anywhere. We need to put more out there. We were going in that direction when I was the ambassador of skilled trades. But Mr. McGinty came in and felt like, well, we have to take away some things, so we took that away. That's okay, I'm still doing the thing, but they don't support it. So that may be one area you got to work in too. Pushing them, tell them we need to get more kids involved in these programs. You can make more money than a lawyer being a carpenter or a plumber or an electrician, and they'll hire you and they will take you on, but you have to like doing that, because that work is manual labor. I mean, you know, there's a lot of skill involved, but it's still manual labor. A lot of people, my son told me the other day, he's looking for another job, but I want nothing backbreaking, Dad. I said, well, you only got a grade 5, 6 education. That's all he's got. I had one of my sons drop out of school. Three kids are doing well, this one's not doing well. He come from a good home, so it ain't always the parents. Many times it's not the parents. Anyway, you know what? It was a pleasure. And all I can say is this, and I've been where a lot of young people are today, so I'm not here blowing smoke up here. I'm telling you straight up. I worked hard for what I got. Once you make that promise to yourself, that commitment, start with small. Ask yourself, examine yourself, ask yourself, what am I really good at? What am I interested in being? Is it realistic? Have I got a realistic chance? Then begin setting goals in that area. And if you need to know more about that area, ask people. You can email me anytime. I'm at my email is spiderjones@rogers.com. There are people in this area that will help you towards your goals. I know that. That's why these people are here. But don't tell me what you can't be. Tell me what you're going to be. I've got my second book coming out. This one's going to be a movie. Somebody told me that when I was 15, 16, I would have called them a liar. And I'm living good and enjoying life, and you can too. Thanks very much.